here in London, England, and tomorrow we will be traveling to Helsinki, Finland, where President Trump will soon meet one-on-one with the man, Vladimir Putin. Now, this comes on the heels of Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein's so-called big announcement today. 12 Russian intelligence agents have been indicted on hacking charges. We're going to weigh in on a couple of things, the odd timing of these charges. We will discuss the extreme measures that Robert Mueller's witch hunt will take in order to keep the spotlight on Russia. Who hacked Hillary's emails? Now, also tonight, we'll have more on President Trump's trip to the United Kingdom. And today he traveled from England to Scotland, and not before hordes of angry, freeloading Londoners actually took to the streets to protest his visit. By the way, against the advice of everyone that's with me and all my producers, I went down to the demonstrations right in the middle of it to see what they were all about. We are going to show you what I experienced. That's coming up. One little spoiler alert. They all knew me, and they didn't seem to like me very much. Also, we have more fallout from Peter Strzok's explosive hearing from yesterday. New information surrounding today's closed-door hearings with Lisa Page, Catherine Herridge, and Sarah Carter will join us with full reports. And let's put it this way. Rod Rosenstein seems like he has some explaining to do. Plus, we're getting reports tonight the Democrats are trying to withhold very key information, again, from the House Intelligence Committee. So stay tuned. It's time for tonight's very important breaking news, London opening monologue. All right, so today the president wrapped up his trip to England. He held a joint press conference with the British Prime Minister, Theresa May. Now, the president discussed America's special relationship with the United Kingdom and so much more. Let's take a look.
The relationship between our two nations is indispensable to the cause of liberty, justice, and peace. The United Kingdom and the United States are bound together by a common historic heritage, language, and heroes. The traditions of freedom, sovereignty, and the true rule of law were our shared gift to the world. They are now our priceless inheritance to a civilization. We must never cease to be united in their defense and in their renewal. I would say I give our relationship, in terms of grade, the highest level of special. So we start off with special. I would give our relationship with the UK, and now, especially after this 2 days, with your Prime Minister, I would say the highest level of special.
The president is now in Scotland, where he is scheduled to spend the weekend. And meanwhile, if you thought that the blind hatred for President Trump was kind of unique to the far left, coastal elites in the U.S., well, think again. Today, President Trump's visit right here to the U.K. was accompanied by waves and waves of angry protesters. By the way, as I predicted, whenever America shows strength, we see this, like with Ronald Reagan. And while President Trump was holding important meetings with the prime minister, thousands took to the streets yelling and chanting and holding up their signs and marching around and complaining about pretty much everything from capitalism to everything Trump. But in order to get a more accurate picture of these protests, I actually went down to the protests right in the middle of it, interviewed, well, some of these Trump-hating Europeans face to face. Take a look.
Why are you here today?
To protest like everyone else.
Just here to protest Trump. I think he's a horrible person and doesn't deserve to come to our country at all. Racist, sexist, misogynistic pig.
What is that?
That's Trump.
Now, why don't you like the president of the United States?
I think he's full of basically.
That's it.
The racist, sexist pig.
The Trump administration, it's quite scary. It is very, very scary.
Says resist. What are you resisting?
Fascism.
And who's a fascist?
You, actually.
I'm a fascist.
By the way, I was shocked at how many people knew me, and predictably, as you see, there was a lot of anger. Not a lot of serious answers from London's liberal socialist freeloaders. They're living in a fantasy land. Now, stay tuned. We have the full highlights of my time in the middle of this anti-Trump protest. That's coming up later in the show. But first, we have new developments from Robert Mueller's witch hunt earlier today. The Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, he announced the indictments of 12 Russians who are accused of hacking into former Clinton campaign chair John Podesta's emails and then leaking them on the internet. By the way, the 12 Russians charged are all GRU agents. That's the Russian version of the CIA. By the way, they'll never come here for trial. So it's interesting, and we've got to ask questions about that. And no Americans, Rod Rosenstein said, are suspected now of playing any role in these election crimes. Let me repeat. He said no Americans were involved. None. Now, despite this, there you go over to fake news, conspiracy TV, MSNBC, and there's Andrea Mitchell thinking this actually proves a nexus between Trump and Russia 2 years in. And they're still believing their own lies. Watch this example of fake news.
I just want to clarify, it was exactly a month later, July 27th, when the president said what he said about Russia, if you're listening, and they already were doing their fishing operations. But clearly, there was a nexus between what was happening that summer and the comments of the president.
Meanwhile, her colleague, he's no Tim Russert, Chucky Todd, he's urging President Trump to cancel all talks with Vladimir Putin. Take a look.
It's stunning to me that there isn't a larger chorus here to at least postpone it, right? Why would you, if you recall, President Trump canceled the North Korean summit for a day, technically based on what he thought was, you know, nasty words that were said about Vice President Pence. So he threatened to cancel a summit, essentially, for much less than, obviously, the indictment of Vladimir Putin, who clearly now, at least if you believe the United States Justice Department, they have confirmed that Vladimir Putin has lied to the president to his face.
And while the left predictably is freaking out and hyping up these indictments, they seem to be conveniently forgetting about the time not so long ago when they couldn't have cared less about election hacking. Now, remember when Trump raised concerns about rigging the election in 2016? Remember then President Obama, October 2016, he just laughed it all off, told Trump, stop whining.
There is no serious person out there who would suggest somehow that you could even rig America's elections, in part because they're so decentralized and the numbers of votes involved. There's no evidence that that has happened in the past or that there are instances in which that will happen this time. And so I'd advise Mr. Trump to stop whining and go try to make his case to get votes.
No serious person, stop whining. Now, by the way, credit to Jake Tapper, because he called out Obama because this all happened on his watch. He was the one asleep at the wheel. Take a look.
You read this indictment and you think, boy, the Obama administration, they really kind of missed the ball on this. I mean, yes, they issued that report, but President Obama said, what did he say? He told Putin to cut it out or knock it off. It wasn't particularly strong. And then there was all this hesitation about warning the American people for fear of looking partisan. In retrospect, doesn't it seem to you that perhaps the Obama administration was at least to a degree asleep at the switch?
Now, of course, that's right. And we have said over and over again on this show, we have all known about Russian efforts to conduct election sabotage and chaos for years. Let's go back to 2014. House Intel Committee Chairman Devin Nunes, he warned us about all of this in the lead up to the 2016 election. Again, years before it happened, Obama was president. There were countless more warnings about this from Intel officials and many others. And excuse me, how many countries hacked Hillary Clinton's email server? Was it China, Russia? Was it the Iranians, the North Koreans? And despite the known risk, Hillary Clinton, well, she decided to conduct official, top secret government business on that private server to the illegal, which we know was hacked by at least 5 foreign powers. And we also know the former Clinton campaign chairman and the DNC, they were easily hacked. Today, Podesta called into CNN to celebrate Mueller's indictments. We'll tell you how stupid he is after you watch this.
I think from the beginning, at the heart of this matter were crimes that were committed against individual citizens, including myself, but what's more important, crimes that were committed against the American democracy. The president likes to describe Mueller's operation as a witch hunt. Well, they've caught the witches here, and I hope at some point that they will actually be brought to justice.
We all know Podesta is nothing but a political hack, and we have known about Russian interference and attempts to create chaos and discord in America, at least since Devin Nunes's 2014 warning when Obama was president. And by the way, Mr. Podesta, the witch hunt is not whether or not foreign powers tried to influence and hack into our elections. Everyone knows that has been taking place for years, election after election. We know Obama tried to influence the Israeli election to prevent the prime minister, our closest ally in the Middle East, Netanyahu, Prime Minister Netanyahu, from being reelected. So the witch hunt is about the phony, biased political investigation into whether or not Trump and the Trump campaign concocted some grand conspiracy with Vladimir Putin to defeat your precious Hillary Clinton. Nice diversion. We know in reality, we all know Trump went to Wisconsin, Hillary did not. We all know Americans were connecting with Donald Trump. Just look at the crowd size. And by the way, not with the very unlikable Hillary Clinton with no vision. And how many reports do we need to now show that no votes were impacted? And I can go on and on. But tonight we're asking the question, why announce these indictments today on the eve of this meeting between the president and Vladimir Putin? To me, this timing is suspect. We all agree that Putin is a hostile actor. We all agree Russia is a hostile regime that needs to be held accountable. But we're only days away from the president's long-scheduled meeting with Vladimir Putin. So what does this announcement today accomplish other than keeping Russia in the headlines ahead of the president's trip? Now, today, the president previewed how this would play out in his upcoming meeting. Let's take a look.
We'll be talking to President Putin about a number of things. Ukraine. We'll be talking about Syria. We'll be talking about other parts of the Middle East. I will be talking about nuclear proliferation. And we'll be talking about other things. I know you'll ask, will we be talking about meddling? And I will absolutely bring that up. I don't think you'll have any, gee, I did it, you got me. There won't be a Perry Mason here, I don't think, but you never know what happens, right? But I will absolutely, firmly ask the question. And hopefully we'll have a very good relationship with Russia.
So the president will be talking about it, and on Monday the show will be broadcasting from Helsinki. We'll bring you all the details from that very important meeting. Now, let's turn our attention back to the deep state. After first defying a subpoena, Trump-hating FBI lawyer Lisa Page finally did appear before a closed-door hearing on Capitol Hill today. Now, this comes after her Trump-hating former colleague and boyfriend Peter Strzok testified during an explosive public hearing in the House yesterday. Last night, we showed you the countless instances where the corrupt, biased FBI investigator played verbal gymnastics, flat out lied during what was contentious questioning. And as you might imagine, your friends in the left wing destroyed Trump. Mainstream media were cheering him on every step of the way. Remember, this is a disgraced high-ranking government employee who said he can smell Trump supporters at a Southern Virginia Walmart. Irredeemable deplorables, people that cling to their God, their guns, their Bibles, and their religion. That's, I guess, who we all are. Watch this.
It was like really watching something out of the 50s, out of the McCarthy era, where you see someone brought up, ordered to answer questions he can't possibly answer. It was really an appalling piece of behavior from the leadership of that committee.
Well, I'm personally glad that Peter Strzok had an opportunity to talk publicly about this, and so that the American people could see his professionalism, as well as what I think is his integrity.
I think it's remarkable that Strzok has that is actually the most robust defense of the FBI that we've heard from a sitting official. I think that really was remarkable.
It was for show. It was for show. The whole thing was for show. We didn't learn a lot new. The whole thing was odious in a way.
The Russian intention was to sow dissent here in the United States. From their perspective, mission accomplished.
This is a day that arguably, in the minds of many, may have empowered Vladimir Putin. Folks, you have to view today's hearing in light of what's happened these last 36 hours. President Trump did trash NATO. He shrugged off Putin's meddling in our presidential election, and now his allies in Congress are holding what some say looks like a show trial that's intent on undermining the investigation into Putin's meddling.
One thing is for sure, if Russia intended to sow discord in this country, mission accomplished.
They should be ashamed of themselves, and I do believe if anybody watches this, They will
no,
understand
fascinating.
why there will be this blue wave, because people are just fed up with these pathetic, sniveling little cowards.
I was not just confused who the villain was. It was very clear who the hero was by the end of the 9 hours of pounding this guy.
Mission accomplished under Obama. And look at what the president said to the German Chancellor, Merkel, this week, when he said, you ought not be that energy dependent on Russia. And by the way, we have plenty of natural resources and energy that we'd love to export to Germany, because that dependence undermines even the mission of NATO. Do they care about government oversight, the Constitution, abuse of power? Do these people care about corrupt high-level actors in the FBI? The answer is pretty obvious. The destroy Trump media's hatred for the president and his smelly supporters, it obviously supersedes all integrity. Journalism is dead. There's no longer a pursuit of truth. We have a lot to get to tonight. Joining us now, though, first, he is the host of the #1 rated show on the Fox Business Network, our sister network, Lou Dobbs Tonight. All right, Lou, it's hard to know where to start, but let's start with Devin Nunes' warning in 2014. Right. Whatever happened chaos-wise or impact in the 2016 election, that would have been done on Obama's watch. And right. the next thing is, we know 5 foreign intelligence services hacked into Hillary's emails, so we don't know who hacked when, where, and what, do we?
We do, that's correct. But we do know that in 2014, 2015, the Russians were attempting to hack into our electoral system. The non-classified email systems at the Pentagon, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, as a matter of fact, as well as the White House, Capitol Hill. The effort has been underway for years, indeed decades. And particularly under President Obama, there was just a shattering passivity that simply overtook not only the administration, but our Department of Defense, our intelligence agencies, and there was no response, Sean, whatsoever to that intervention by the Russians in 2016.
Let me ask this question, because this is important. There are reports we have as many as 250,000 IT experts that we pay in our government.
Right.
Take Julian Assange for one, who was in his late teens when he apparently hacked into the DOD and NASA. Here we are 30 years later. Where are our cyber defenses? And in 2016, Obama saying no insightful person would ever think, serious person would ever think that anybody could hack into anything or impact our elections?
Yeah, yet President Obama at that time was also crafting a policy that required the United States to respond to devastating cyber attacks as an act of war, and to expect the United States to respond militarily. By the way, that obviously never happened. It is, despite the largest hacks and cyber attacks in this country's history. You recall when the Office of Personnel Management was hit, over 30 million federal employees, their data accessed by cyber attacks from China, from Russia, and God knows where else. So the whole Obama administration amounts to a great fiction. An artifice was rather than a defense against these cyber attacks. And frankly, there was never any response at any time to a cyber attack during that entire 8-year period.
At some point, we better take it all seriously, because it's our national secrets. That's why sources and methods clearly were compromised with the email server. Felonies were committed, and that gets to the heart of the rigged investigation into Hillary. Let me ask you this. So I'm on the... Oh, go ahead. I see you want to say something. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say that to your point, today we witnessed another act that shows that there is no seriousness whatsoever on the part of the Justice Department to deal with this as a national security issue. Your viewers are sitting there looking at Rod Rosenstein talking like a 6th grade civics instructor and talking about patriotism versus partisanship while he is carrying out a partisan act. He is, in point of fact, dealing without any question whatsoever in partisan politics, upstaging the President of the United States for whom he works, and in point of fact, trying to cover for Peter Strzok, who had a devastating experience on Capitol Hill, where he was ultimately forced to admit the truth about the phony dossier that was concocted through $12 million from the DNC and from the Clinton campaign, and then used fraudulently to secure surveillance on the Trump administration through FISA courts, for which someone should probably go to jail.
Yeah. If we did the obstruction Hillary did, if we compromised sources and methods the way she did, we would be in jail. Similarly, if we lied to FISA court judges, there's so much to unravel here. I know you're working hard on it every night. Let me ask you this question. So we're here in London. Against all the advice of everybody that's here with me, I went out in the middle of these crazy protesters, and we'll show it later tonight. Well, I'm just not going to back down. That's not how I roll, and that's not how you roll either. But the point is, Lou, they don't know what they hate. They have no clue, and they don't know. And that was the one consistent thing that I saw today, which we'll show our audience in a few minutes.
Yeah, I think that's terrific. And those haters, by the way, who were supposed to, the national left-wing media of America, it's being styled as purely anti-Trump when we know that it is anti-capitalism, it's anarchist, it is, they're still trying to produce a program for climate change, and the list goes on, but being styled by the left-wing media, particularly in this country, as anti-Trump. The silly thing is that there are a lot of people who are anti-Trump around the world, but they can't quite figure out why. Here's a guy who's got the entire global economy revving up, and if it weren't for this giant engine of the American economy, which he has ginned up to over 4%, likely 4% GDP growth, which Obama, of course, said was impossible. It's going to drive the global economy. It's remarkable, the ignorance of those folks.
All right, we'll show all of that coming up. Lou Dobbs, thank you. When we come back, Trump-hating FBI lawyer Lisa Page met with lawmakers. Catherine Herridge, Sarah Cardab reports. As we continue reporting from London, now before we get to me going to the heart in the middle of these protests here in London, well, we have other news back home. Earlier today, Lisa Page, she met with congressional lawmakers behind closed doors. Catherine Herridge, she is live from Washington. She has the very latest in some very interesting developments. Catherine.
Well, thanks, Sean, and good evening. Former FBI lawyer Lisa Page spent 4 hours on Capitol Hill and is expected back Monday for the second half of a closed-door deposition, which could go into a classified setting. Heading in, Fox News asked Page whether she saw Agent Peter Strzok's testimony yesterday about their anti-Trump text messages, whether her legal team coordinated testimony with his lawyers, and if she had any regrets. Page, who was romantically involved with Strzok, did not respond, but a senior committee Republican said she appears to be cooperating.
I'm not going to characterize her testimony because I think that would be not in the spirit of where we're trying to do with transcribed interviews. I will say that there is new information that we've been able to gain today, and that new information is credible.
Also today, the Justice Department released this 29-page indictment from the Russia Special Counsel alleging a direct link between the 2016 election interference and President Vladimir Putin's government. During the 2016 campaign, the defendants, all members of Russian intelligence known as the GRU, are accused of hacking Democrats' emails, then releasing them, sometimes posing as U.S. citizens.
The conspirators created fictitious online personas, including DC Leaks and Guccifer 2.0. The defendants falsely claimed that DC Leaks was a group of American hackers and that Guccifer 2.0 was a lone Romanian hacker.
In a statement, a White House spokesperson emphasized there is no allegation Americans knew they were corresponding with Russians, no allegation any American citizen committed a crime, and certainly no allegation that the conspiracy changed the vote count. Sean.
All right, Catherine Herridge in Washington tonight, here with reaction. Fox News contributor and investigative reporter Sarah Carter, and the author of We're Only a Little Over a Week Away, The Russia Hoax, the illicit scheme to clear Hillary Clinton, frame Donald Trump. Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett. All right, let's go to your reporting on Lisa Page today, which I think is obviously very, very important. But they only had a short time, but there is one big development, especially Rod Rosenstein's name is involved yet again.
Yeah, absolutely, Sean. So they've asked a number of questions, and there have been significant developments in that. But one of the things that we do know is that the January 4th letter that the House Intelligence Committee received from Rod Rosenstein, they agreed to allow them to interview 8 key witnesses. 2 of them, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page.
This is in January.
This was in January when they questioned Lisa Page and asked her, why didn't you respond to the House Intelligence Committee's request? She said the DOJ never contacted her. Rod Rosenstein never contacted her.
He's the same Rod Rosenstein that begged, before the Nunes memo, begged Paul Ryan, don't release this up till the final hours.
Yes, he is the same, and it's even more interesting because this week, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Mark Warner all sent a letter to Dan Coates asking him not to release, basically reprimanding him for releasing information to the House Intelligence Committee, their own committee. So they don't even want the information.
The greatest evidence, there's something there. Just like Rod Rosenstein signing the 4th FISA warrant, they don't want to release, especially 19 pages, if my memory serves me well.
Absolutely.
Let me go to Greg Jarrett. Greg, get your reaction to this, obviously, and with so much other stuff happening here today, including the indictment of 19 people, which Devin Nunes warned us all about in 2014. This was under Obama's watch, and we still don't know who hacked into Hillary's email server and what methods and sources were compromised there.
You know, it's not really the bombshell that the media seems to be proclaiming. And the American public, if they're watching CNN or MSNBC, they're not getting the truth. They're being deliberately misled. I watched them today.
Fake news.
Dana Bash on CNN twice said that, you know, it's now imminent that Americans will be indicted over this, meaning the Trump campaign. You've got Adam Schiff, who
doesn't mean that people might not, but there's nothing happened here.
Andrea Mitchell is over on MSNBC saying there's now proof of a solid connection between Trump and the Russians. And Adam Schiff was actually musing today about the arrest of Donald Trump and then said, I'm only half jesting about it. So, you know, if you really want to get the truth, don't watch those networks because they're lying to the American people about what really happened today.
Well, actually, the American people already figured that out, thank God, and they really don't. So that's some good news. But what about what Sarah is saying here, that this is really important? Why would they not want specific information going to their own committees when it is their constitutional authority and duty to perform oversight? And where are the 19 pages to the final application, FISA warrant application that Rod Rosenstein signed?
Look, if the Department of Justice and the FBI were capable of lying to judges, concealing evidence, and hiding facts to obtain the warrant, they're certainly hiding other documents, including, you know, the 19 that you referred to. So I wouldn't put anything past the FBI and the Department of Justice when it comes to unscrupulous and probably illegal behavior.
And that then goes to the heart of what Greg has said and what you have said and what I have said, that the president has the authority to force them to release all of this information.
And the president should absolutely use that authority. The American people and the president and this administration deserve better than what they're getting. They deserve to know the truth. Let's get those 19 pages out. Let's get them public.
And let's get out what Chuck Schumer doesn't want out, what they're asking Dan Coates not to release.
Absolutely. They have no reason to reprimand Dan Coates other than the fact that they are trying to hide something. And that's what FBI
Whatever
Director
it is
Wray
has got to be profound.
It
For them
is.
to write the letter is, to me, is profound, right?
Well, it's profound because they want to continue this disinformation campaign. They want to push this through to November.
To the election.
I say, you know what? Let's not give them that opportunity. Let's just get the truth out for the American people. That's the most important.
All right, and thank you both. Only days away from Greg's book, by the way, Amazon.com and Hannity.com. Well, no, this is going to be a big book, an important book. I've read it. Thank you both. When we come back from London, left-wing protesters right here angry at Donald Trump for daring to ask them to pay their fair share. Actually, they have no idea why they're angry at Donald Trump. They're just mad. And it was one big party. And I went down in the middle of it. And then we'll also get reaction from Dan Hoffman and Sebastian Gorka. As we continue from London, wait till you see this video coming up next. All right, so earlier today, against the advice of everybody here with me in London, well, we hit the streets and we were asking all these protesters to tell us exactly, specifically, what they don't like about President Trump. Well, you can't make this up. Take a look. Why are you here today?
I'm here to protest.
What specifically don't you like about Trump?
I don't like his policies.
What policy?
All of them. Tell Trump to go home. He's not welcome here. We don't want him in the UK.
We hope that he takes this seriously. But of course he won't. He'll just ignore it and pretend it hasn't happened. La la la.
This seems like a party. It doesn't seem too serious.
No, look, everyone's just here for a good time, just to spread a message of love.
Don't you love America?
We're not going to engage with you anymore.
Got it.
Please make your way.
Got it.
Yeah, we disagree a lot. You're very welcome to be here.
Thank you.
And I saw some people giving you trouble. There's no need for that.
I think America is divided like Britain. I think part of America is deeply, deeply ashamed. And I think part of America has been hoodwinked.
Do you think that the NATO alliance, that the United States of America, is it fair if they pay 70% of the bill? What are you protesting? Are you here to you're just here to have a party, be honest.
I can't believe this is tone, man.
I'm here because of all the hate that Trump exudes, yeah.
I wasn't going to come out initially just because Trump's a
And why are you here?
To protest against the Trump administration and everything.
And what about them?
I'm okay not being interviewed. It's a nightmare. He must be stopped.
America, wake up! Vote him out!
It's been hot this summer for a reason, you know what I mean?
Is it Donald Trump's fault it's hot?
No, but I think he's promoting climate change.
Donald is not welcome, and free Melania.
I detest Trump because of his policies, because of his racism and homophobia and misogyny, and because he's just two-faced and duplicitous.
We respect human rights in this country, and we'd like him to see that the way that he acts and the way that he speaks, we profoundly, profoundly reject it in a polite way.
The lies that he's told, not to mention the human rights abuses that he's committed in his own country, we don't think he has any place over here.
I think a lot of British people are more intelligent than the Americans are when it comes to voting.
I'm quite angry. Even though I don't look angry, I am quite angry. Because what I think that he represents everything that's toxic about Western culture and Western history. And I'm furious.
All right. They didn't really have good reasons, but it was kind of a good party. I was shocked at how many people knew me. Here with reaction, the author of the book, Why We Fight, Fox News national security strategist, Dr. Sebastian Gorka, retired CIA senior intelligence officer, Fox News contributor Danielle Hoffman. Nobody wanted me to go down. We had one minor incident, but you didn't get it on tape, which drives me nuts. But it wasn't that bad. I was shocked how many people knew me, but I was also, they can't answer. They just, should we pay 70%? No. Why are you here protesting? He's a bad person. It reminds me, every time America shows strength on the world stage, European socialist liberals hate it. If it was Obama apologizing or dumping $150 billion on the Mullahs, they'd love it.
Very reminiscent to me of 1983 when Europeans came out in protest against President Reagan for the Pershing II missile deployment. And it's a great contrast
to protect Europe.
Right, and President Reagan was proven right. Years later, we all agreed it was the right thing to do. Of course, those protests could never happen in places like Russia and China, but that's the first point. And the second one, we know the Russians have used the social networking and media sites to try to amplify protests and hurt our president. I just wonder whether they might have done that in this case as well. I think that's something for our intelligence community to check on.
Yeah. Dr. Gorka, your first reaction, we talked off air, you told me that you think I'm nuts for even doing it. But what's your reaction?
Yes.
They don't have a point, or no universal point, or nothing specific. It's getting hot in the world. Is that Trump's fault? No.
Sean.
Okay, why are you here?
Sean, I would have told you not to do it, but I'm glad you did. That was really very, very amusing and very telling. At least we now know that Donald Trump is responsible for global warming. I mean, look, these people, I would like to see at least this many Brits go out and demonstrate against terrorism. Go out and demonstrate against the grooming and rape gangs that are being prosecuted. How about going out and demonstrating against female genital mutilation or the bombing of the Ariana Grande concert in Manchester? These are, look, we now have proof, Sean, snowflakes are everywhere. These are not the people who voted for Brexit. This is the chattering classes, and they have nothing to tell you.
You know, the reality is that but for the United States of America and our commitment to Europe and NATO, I mean, they don't survive. I mean, that is the stupidity. One of the, I think, best things the president did this week was tell Angela Merkel, stop creating dependency on Putin and a hostile regime. Stop. And we've got more natural resources. We can put more Americans to work with career jobs tomorrow and export all the energy they would ever need in all of Western Europe.
There's a bit of irony about all of this because Europe is under greater threat from Russia today than at any time since the collapse of the Soviet Union. And yes, the United States takes the lead in countering and deterring
70
Russia.
plus cents of every dollar, Daniel. We pay for NATO $700 billion a year, and Germany doesn't pay their fair share.
I mean, even beyond the financial aspects of this, it's really our moral leadership, our intelligence leadership, the strategic leadership of the United States. People aren't always grateful for that, but again, on the eve of the president's summit with Vladimir Putin, I find it awfully ironic.
You know, the president said today everything's on the table with Vladimir Putin. And just like the lead up to the Kim Jong-un summit in Singapore, oh, this is a bad idea. The president shouldn't do this. Dr. Gorka, I think it's good for the world if the president, we saw how direct he was with NATO. He's going to be the same way. He can't be any different. That's who he is. It will be an honest, forthright, frank discussion, just like it was with Little Rocket Man and Fire and Fury.
You know the president, I know the president, and people always ask me, what's he really like? And the viewers need to understand, he's exactly the same behind closed doors as he is in front of 50,000 people in an arena in Florida. He is a straight shooter. And you know, when he closes that door and it's just him and the interpreters, he's going to say, look, what you did in the Ukraine is wrong. That it cannot stand. Stop messing around in Syria. We've already killed 200 of your mercenaries. And stop threatening NATO. He's going to be a straight shooter. But look, you know, Rod Rosenstein and everybody else wants to talk about Russian collusion. It's a fantasy.
As we all know. Dr. Gorka, we wish you were here with us. Good to see you as my friend.
Me too.
Daniel, welcome to London. And we'll see you in Helsinki on Monday. When we come back, Brexit leader Nigel Farage as we continue live in London Monday, Helsinki, Finland. We hope you'll join us.
Once the Brexit process is concluded and perhaps the UK has left the EU, I don't know what they're going to do, but whatever you do is okay with me. That's your decision. Whatever you're going to do is okay with us. Just make sure we can trade together. That's all that matters. The United States looks forward to finalizing a great bilateral trade agreement with the United Kingdom. This is an incredible opportunity for our two countries, and we will seize it fully. We support the decision of the British people to realize full self-government, and we will see how that goes. Very complicated negotiation and not an easy negotiation, that's for sure.
That was the president earlier today reaffirming the United States' commitment to a strong trade relationship with post-Brexit England. Joining us now with reaction, he is the Brexit leader, Nigel Farage. How are you, my friend? Good to see you.
Very well. Good to see you here.
Why didn't you come to the protest with me?
Because I'm hated even more than Donald Trump. And in fact, I went into a building in Westminster earlier, and they found I was there, they gathered outside.
The protesters.
Oh, yeah. I had to be got out the fire exit out the back. But look, I've got you a souvenir.
Oh, you did?
No, I do.
You came bearing
there we
gifts.
are. I think it's very important that we have that. No to torture.
Wait, could you sign it?
Absolutely.
There you go.
Because you've got to remember that Trump is guilty for climate change, torture.
That's what
I mean, there's
ill in the
virtually
world.
nothing in the world.
By the way, you know, 14 states have record low unemployments for Hispanic Americans, African Americans, women in the workplace. Oh, and we have more jobs available in America than we have people that take them that are on unemployment.
But there's no rationale to this. Do you know, every one of those people out there are the same people that go on the anti-Brexit marches. You know, it's just the same crowd.
So what the president in the Sun obviously took Theresa May to task.
Yeah.
I told her how to do it. She didn't do it right. She didn't.
Truth of it is, Trump believes in Brexit. The whole administration believes in Brexit. Why? Because they believe in nation states. Why? Because they understand that the European Union is the epicenter of the globalist project. That's what Hillary was for. That's what Donald was against. That's what the election was about.
Yeah. And you won by a big margin here.
We did win by a big margin, but what we've got now, a couple of years on, is an establishment fighting back very hard, a very weak prime minister who doesn't really believe in what she's doing.
She says the right thing and never does it.
No, she says the right thing and does the opposite. It's quite extraordinary.
Yeah,
I mean, I think they wind her up at the back in the morning, you know, and she
oh, ouch.
She robotically says we're taking back control of our laws, borders, and money, and it sounds great. And then you see what she does, and it's different. But I also think this. From the early days of the administration, I remember talking to people around the president, and they were saying to me how excited they were about a free trade deal with the UK. Why? Because it showed the world.
It's in jeopardy.
Showed the world that America's not protectionist, but it wants fair trade.
Free and fair trade.
Absolutely. We promised to America that we'd facilitate that once Brexit had happened, but the agreement May made last week makes that virtually impossible.
The Prime Minister seems to be hanging by a thread from my observation. Okay.
Yes.
Boris Johnson, big speech coming up on Monday. Does he have a chance? Because he wasn't pro-Trump that I remember.
Oh, look, the idea that they're good friends is nonsense. You know, I mean, Boris...
I love your honesty.
Come on. I mean, you know, Boris didn't even want Trump to come to London. But hey, times change, and there are certain politicians who can be a little bit malleable with these things.
A little bit?
Just the way it is. Truth
Why
is...
don't you run for Prime Minister?
Well, truth is, Boris did join the Brexit party. He may have came late, but he did, and he was important. If we had Boris as leader, we'd be in a far better place than we are with Theresa May. Middle England is in uproar.
Do you support him?
Well,
Why not you? Because you are the Brexit leader.
Yeah, well, I kind of step back a bit from frontline politics in Britain. But if they drop the ball, and if the Conservative Party cannot sort this out, I'll be back. And next time, no more Mr. Nice Guy.
Okay, I'll take that as a yes. Okay. The last question. Listen, we love our friends in Great Britain. We are tied forever. I only have about 25 seconds.
Yeah.
We pay 70+ cents of every dollar for NATO. Why won't Germany step up, and why are they making Russia rich again with energy?
The whole thing's a joke, and underlying it is a desire to build a European army. A European army will undermine NATO, and I hope Trump, if they don't pay up within the next 6-9 months, starts to withdraw troops and says, hey, we're serious about this.
Yeah. Nigel, good to see you again.
Pleasure.
Great to be. I actually had some time here, but I was hanging out with the protesters.
It's a great city.
Oh, thank you for my gift. When we come back from London, more Hannity and a programming note for Monday. Straight ahead. All right, that's all the time we have left from London. As always, thank you for joining us. All right, Monday, President Trump meeting Vladimir Putin in Helsinki, Finland. We will be live from Helsinki with all the details. You do not want to miss Monday's show. By the way, don't underestimate the president. Just a gut feeling. Let not your heart be troubled. The news continues. Laura Ingram's next. We'll see you from Helsinki on Monday. Have a great weekend.